The film opens with Jensen Ames, a former inmate and industrial worker, confronting a harsh truth. His steel mill is closing and without pay. Frustration explodes among the workers, leading to a protest. Riot police arrive, responding with violence. Jensen, seeing co-workers beaten, retaliates, taking down officers before escaping. By night, he's home, greeting his wife, then checking on their baby, oblivious to a masked intruder inside. The killer murders Jensen's wife in the kitchen. As Jensen returns, the intruder ambushes him, knocking him unconscious before planting the murder weapon in Jensen's hand. Jensen awakens to sirens and flashing lights, arrested for a crime he didn't commit. 6 months later, Jensen is transferred to Terminal Island Prison. Guard Ulrich greets him with freezing water, allowing an officer to beat him before escorting him to a cell with 3 violent inmates. Hours later, Ulrich returns, expecting Jensen broken. Instead, he finds all 3 cellmates knocked out cold. The next morning, Jensen enters the mess hall, drawing attention. Prisoners Coach, Gunner, and Lists observe him, recognizing him as a legendary driver whose career ended tragically. The tense atmosphere shifts when Pashiko and his friend approach. They spit in Jensen's food, taunting him, calling him a wife killer and child abuser. Jensen snaps, attacking Pashiko, but guards intervene, dragging him away. Jensen is taken to Warden Claire Hennessy's office. She knows his past, skills, reputation, and talent behind the wheel. She offers him a deal. Take on the role of Frankenstein, the legendary driver of the infamous death race. The real Frankenstein died, but the public doesn't know. Hennessy, determined to maintain the show's ratings, wants to keep his death a secret. She offers Jensen a tempting deal. Win 1 more race and earn his freedom. Frankenstein had won 4, so Jensen only needs 1 victory. Jensen hesitates as drivers die in the race. Hennessy won't take no. She threatens him with solitary confinement to ensure he can't expose her secret. Left with no alternative, Jensen accepts. He's taken to the prison's auto shop, meeting Coach and his mechanic, the team responsible for Frankenstein's car. They explain the rules. Every driver is on their own, no alliances. He also notices a large, restricted workshop where Hennessy builds something secret. Coach introduces Jensen to his car, a heavily modified Mustang V8 fastback loaded with weapons and armor. To prevent escapes, ammunition is only loaded on race day. Coach makes it clear escaping this island is impossible. The only exit is a narrow bridge, heavily guarded by helicopters and patrol cars. Later in the prison yard, Coach explains the race's 3-stage structure. In the first 2, elimination is key. Drivers must take out rivals. In the final stage, speed matters most. The first to cross the finish line wins. Each racer is assigned a navigator, usually a woman from the women's facility. The only exception is Joe, who cycles through navigators so quickly it makes the audience uncomfortable. Jensen listens as Lists informs him on key competitors. 14K, a ruthless triad member and former MIT graduate. Hector Grimm, a psychopath who worships Hennessy. Slovo Pashiko, the Aryan Brotherhood leader, known for brutality on and off the track. And finally, Travis Colt, a disgraced former NASCAR driver desperate to prove himself. Their conversation is interrupted when Joe and his crew confront Jensen, taunting him, making it clear this race is between Joe and Frankenstein. At that moment, a prison transport van arrives. Jensen notices something strange. The prisoners wear GPS tracking bracelets. A disturbing realization hits him. The man who killed his wife wore the same bracelet. With no time to process, the first stage begins. Jensen is fully transformed into Frankenstein, wearing the legend's signature clothes, mask, and ring. His return instantly recaptures the audience's attention. Before the race, Coach warns him to stay silent. Frankenstein's mystique depends on it. However, once inside the car, he can remove the mask as the windows are mirrored. Case already knows the truth. As they prepare, Jensen asks Case about her past. She reveals she killed a cop, her own abusive husband. She had no other choice. Before they say more, the countdown begins. The first lap is tame. Weapons won't activate until the second, but drivers shove each other off the track. Thanks to Case's guidance, Jensen keeps up with Joe at the front. She spots a shortcut, directing him through it, allowing him to take the lead. As the second lap begins, Hennessy activates the shields and weapons. Drivers must steer over special manholes, hitting all 4 wheels to enable their combat systems. Chaos erupts as the race transforms into an all-out battle. To raise the stakes, Hennessy activates the death heads, deadly traps strategically placed across the track. Grimm is the first to take advantage, slamming another driver into a trap, killing him instantly, then slowing Joe down by shooting oil onto his car, forcing him to spin out. But Grimm doesn't last long. 14K launches a missile at him, forcing his car off the track. As he stumbles out, Joe finishes him off, running him over. Jensen manages to activate his car's weapons, but his machine gun jams. Case climbs onto the hood mid-race to fix it. Gunfire rains down, but Jensen's precise driving keeps her safe. She quickly returns to her seat and they push forward. The battle intensifies. Jensen manages to steal a defense manhole from Colt, but like with the real Frankenstein, none of his defense systems activate. The rear shield takes heavy fire, wearing down fast. Thinking quickly, Jensen devises a risky plan. He tells Case to unhook the napalm canister and sit on his lap. With perfect timing, he ejects her seat, sending the canister flying toward Colt's car. As the canister smashes into Colt's vehicle, Case tosses the car's lighter, yelling, "Merry Christmas, mother f*****." The napalm ignites, engulfing Colt's car in flames. With him out, Jensen now faces Joe head-to-head. Suddenly, something distracts him. Pacheco, driving ahead, makes a familiar hand gesture, the same one the man who killed his wife made before escaping. Joe seizes the moment, slamming into Jensen's car, knocking him into last place while Pacheco takes first. By the end of the race, 3 drivers are dead, 6 remain. Back at the garage, Coach and his team inspect the car. Strangely, nothing is wrong with the systems, everything should have worked. Jensen, frustrated and suspicious, starts connecting the dots. He confronts Hennessy, accusing her of orchestrating everything. His wife's murder, rigging the race, and using Pacheco to manipulate him into taking Frankenstein's place. Hennessy doesn't confirm anything. Instead, she hits him where it hurts, revealing a photo of his daughter, now in foster care. If he wants to see her again, he has no choice but to play along. Jensen, knowing he's trapped, returns to the yard and speaks with Coach. Jensen asks why Coach doesn't wear a prisoner number. Coach explains that technically, he isn't an inmate. His sentence ended 3 years ago. However, after spending so much time inside, the outside world no longer felt like home. Instead of leaving, he chose to stay in prison, where the races and routine gave him purpose. He also reveals he doesn't believe Jensen killed his wife. Later that evening, while working on his car, Jensen spots Pacheco passing by and follows him to his team's pit. The moment he steps inside, he's ambushed. Pacheco lands heavy blows before grabbing a large metal tool, intending to crush Jensen's skull. Despite Hennessy's protection, he doesn't hesitate. Before he can strike, Lists intervenes, stabbing Pacheco in the back with a pen. Seizing the moment, Jensen grabs a metal rod from the ground and drives it into one of Pacheco's men. He knocks out the remaining captors before turning his full attention to Pacheco. Fueled by rage, he delivers brutal punches, slamming him into nearby crates and equipment. With nowhere left to run, Pacheco finally confesses. Hennessy ordered the hit on Jensen's wife, and Ulrich brought him to the house. Before Jensen can finish him off, Ulrich and another guard storm in and break up the fight, dragging Jensen away. The next day, just before the second stage, Pacheco mocks Jensen again, repeating the taunting hand gesture that haunted him. This time, Jensen doesn't react. As soon as the race starts, he deliberately slows down and veers into a tunnel, using the cover to confront Case. Jensen wastes no time, accusing Case of killing the real Frankenstein. He knows the car's gadgets failing in 2 consecutive races isn't a coincidence. Case hesitates, and Jensen doesn't wait. He grips the eject button, warning her that if she doesn't tell the truth, she's out. Seeing no other choice, Case confesses. She sabotaged Frankenstein's rear weapons under Hennessy's orders. She was promised freedom in return. The goal was never to kill Frank, only to ensure he lost, allowing Hennessy to exploit his fame. Frank's desperation to win without working weapons turned it into a fatal accident. Jensen now has all the proof he needs. Without another word, he shifts gears and races back onto the track, ignoring Joe. His focus is locked on Pacheco. They clash repeatedly, bumping and swerving, each trying to force the other off the road, but neither succeeds. Jensen then makes an unusual move. He activates the weapon's manhole instead of the defense system. Everyone is confused. His car's guns are mounted at the front. Moments later, Jensen shocks the crowd. He spins the car around and drives backward. With a perfect line of fire, he unleashes a barrage of bullets on Pacheco's vehicle. The damage mounts quickly. The car is barely holding together. Jensen switches tactics, releasing a smoke screen, blinding Pacheco. With no way to see ahead, Pacheco crashes straight into a concrete barrier. Jensen stops his car and steps out. Without hesitation, he walks up to Pacheco and, in one swift motion, breaks his neck, avenging his wife. Meanwhile, Joe swaps out his navigator mid-race, preparing for the final showdown. Just as the race intensifies, Hennessy unveils her secret weapon, a massive, heavily armed tanker truck known as Dreadnought. The monstrous vehicle storms onto the track, its sheer size and firepower making it nearly unstoppable. It obliterates two minor racers instantly, crushing everything in its path. Unlike the other cars, Dreadnought has no track restrictions and is even allowed to cut through buildings, reappearing ahead of the competition. As the destruction continues, 14 Katakes Navigator becomes its next target. The Dreadnought tortures him on the track, then traps his car with chains and fires relentlessly until it bursts into flames. With only Jensen and Joe remaining, winning seems impossible without a plan. Realizing this, Jensen contacts Lists and has his communicator linked to Joe's car. Both racers agree to team up against the Dreadnought, flanking it from both sides. Jensen and Joe skillfully dodge its relentless attacks. Spotting a trap manhole, they coordinate their movements perfectly, each hitting it with two wheels, triggering the trap beneath the Dreadnought. The massive truck slams into it, flipping violently and coming to a dead stop. With the Dreadnought destroyed, the second stage ends. Now only Jensen and Joe remain for the final race. Later that evening, Joe approaches Jensen in the pit. He studies him closely and notes that his voice sounds eerily similar to Frank's. Meanwhile, Hennessy and Ulrich decide that Jensen must not survive the final race. The next day, just before the last stage, Ulrich discreetly plants a bomb under Jensen's car while Hennessy distracts everyone with a speech about racing being their ultimate purpose. As she mentions how this could be the first time someone wins their freedom with a fifth victory, Jensen realizes something chilling. No one has ever been allowed to win 5 races. It was never about victory. The races were always rigged to ensure no driver ever escaped. Coach overhears Jensen's realization and shows him a key detail from a video of Grimm's death. This sparks an idea. Jensen immediately asks Lists to install a half-gallon reserve tank in his car. Then he heads to Joe's pit to propose one final collaboration. As Jensen changes into Frankenstein's gear, Hennessy visits him with his release papers and a new proposition. If he wins today, she doesn't want him to leave. She wants him to stay in prison and keep the legend of Frankenstein alive. She insists that an ex-con like him could never give his daughter a good life. Staying in the race would be his ultimate act of love. Jensen takes the release papers without a word and slips them into his pocket. As he prepares for the race, Case reveals that Hennessy also spoke to her. She was ordered to stop Jensen if he was about to win. Jensen isn't worried, he has other plans. The race begins and Ulrich manipulates the manholes, activating them only when Joe drives over them. He then opens fire, severely damaging Jensen's rear shield, forcing him to drop it. But Joe is prepared, having studied Frankenstein's past races. He knows exactly how to evade the attacks. As the battle intensifies, Hennessy, eager to keep viewers engaged, activates a defense manhole for Jensen. Joe, however, fires a rocket at it, destroying it instantly. He launches more rockets, but Jensen skillfully dodges each one, letting them hit a specific wall. This isn't random. Jensen and Joe have planned everything. The rockets strike a weak spot in the wall, the same one damaged during Grimm's crash. The barrier crumbles, creating a massive hole. Instead of racing for victory, Jensen and Joe execute their real plan, escaping the prison. This is their final act of defiance against Hennessy's rigged system. Enraged, Hennessy shuts down the live broadcast and orders every available officer to hunt them down. Hennessy presses the detonator, expecting Jensen's car to explode, but nothing happens. Her plan has failed. Coach and his crew had already removed and deactivated the bomb. Meanwhile, Jensen and Joe speed toward the bridge, but the police are closing in fast. It's time for the next phase of their escape. Jensen releases the extra half-gallon reserve tank, letting it fall onto the pursuing police cars. The impact triggers a massive explosion, creating a fiery barrier that blocks the path. preventing more officers from following. With no obstacles left, they break through the bridge gates. As they cross, they split up onto separate roads, hoping to confuse the helicopters. The plan works. The choppers zero in on Jensen, seeing him as the primary target. Back at the prison, Case decides to help Jensen with the final part of the plan. She owes it to Frank, and with her release papers already in hand, she has nothing to lose. Jensen spots a series of construction cranes ahead and takes the opportunity. He leaps out of the car, disappearing into the shadows. Case, now in the driver's seat, keeps going. Moments later, the helicopters cut off her path with a wall of fire, forcing her to stop. She steps out, hands raised in surrender, wearing Frank's clothes and mask. Now she is Frankenstein. The twist leaves everyone confused. The authorities believe they've captured the real Frankenstein, allowing Jensen to escape. Case is arrested and taken back to prison, completing the deception. Meanwhile, Jensen reunites with Joe, and together they board a train, disappearing into the distance. Back at Terminal Island Prison, Ulrich watches the ratings skyrocket, with graphics celebrating another thrilling race. He casually opens a package, unaware of its contents. Inside, he finds the bomb he planted under Jensen's car. Before he can react, it detonates, killing both him and Hennessy in a fiery explosion. 6 months later, Jensen and Joe have built a new life in Santa Rosalia, Mexico. Together, they run a small auto shop, working as mechanics, far from the chaos of the death race. Jensen has regained custody of his daughter, finally giving her the life he always wanted. Everything has fallen into place. Soon, Case arrives, now officially free. Her release papers were finally processed. She smiles as she steps into the shop, bringing along a new racing car for them to check out. A fresh start, a new road ahead.